Don't ever give up, don't ever give in, don't ever stop trying. Pick yourself up, brush yourself off, but never, ever, ever give up. These words were written by an author by the name of Rochelle E. Goodrich, and they're words I try to live by every day. I've always been taught to finish what I start and to do it to the very best of my ability. And throughout my life, my family and my experiences have reminded me that quitting is never an option. Although there have been times when I've needed to reaffirm my strength of commitment or need to relearn the importance of trying until the very end. Last year, this lesson came in the form of 10 fifth grade girls in a basketball court. It all started in November. I just finished my final high school water polo season, my college apps were nearly done, and I was looking for something to occupy my time. With the holiday season fast approaching, I figured it would be a great idea to devote my efforts to a worthy cause, like our local holiday parade or working in a soup kitchen. Then what appeared to be the most worthy of causes came to my attention, and it was the fact that our local recreational youth basketball league was in dire need of some volunteer coaches. I loved kids, I love the sport of basketball. What could be more perfect than being a youth coach? Turns out anything. I mean, I would have been so much better than that, but I didn't know it at the time. So I convinced 3 of my ex-basketball teammates to make a commitment with me. And a week later, I was officially the head coach of the 5th grade girls Bulldogs team. And I was already in way over my head. On the first night of practice, 8 out of my 10 players showed up. 1 was in a dress, 2 were in long sleeves and jeans, and only 4 were wearing anything remotely like athletic shoes. After a quick survey, I found out that only 2 had actually played basketball before, and none of them knew any of the rules, except that you're supposed to get the ball in the hoop. And I was so thankful they at least knew that, because I had no idea where to start. Needless to say, the first practice was a complete disaster. I had never actually coached on my own before, and these girls had obviously never been coached. My 3 assistants were on the clear other side of the gym, playing horse with themselves, while I was walking around trying to get these girls to do a simple that turned into a running drill as they were just chasing rogue basketballs all over the court. By the end of that night, I knew that I'd made a huge mistake. I had been left with the 10 kids no one else in the league wanted, and I had no idea what to do with them. As the first few weeks of the season progressed, I only became more disheartened. My assistant coaches had all but abandoned me, and I could barely get 4 kids at every practice because their parents were completely useless. I spent so much time meticulously crafting these professional emails where I would remind them all of every time and location for every game and every practice. I would tell them how important it was that their kids had shoes and jerseys, and that they actually gave their child water when they were doing physical activities. And I begged them to let me know if they weren't coming to the games. But it was a waste of time. And I was left stressing out of my mind on every game day because I never knew if I would have 5 kids to throw on the court. And throwing 5 kids on the court was exactly what I had to do for most of the game because that was all that would come. We even had to almost forfeit a few of our games because we wouldn't have enough players. And let me just tell you that trying to get 5 completely out of shape 10-year-olds to last a full basketball game with no substitutions is almost impossible. I had to use up all of my timeouts and most of the opposing team's timeouts as well, just to make sure they were free. We were killed every single game. My team could barely make a basket. They were running like chickens with their heads cut off on the court, no matter how many times I told them what to do. So I just went home after every game. I was frustrated, I was disappointed, and I told my mom, I want to quit. I really, really want to quit. This is awful. But she told me, you made a commitment. You can't back out now, not especially when these countless little children depend on you. So I didn't quit, and instead, I just worked a whole lot harder. I decided that if I was going to be the head coach for the Bulldogs, I was going to be the best head coach they had ever had. So I started looking up all sorts of new drills, new games, and new plays to teach them. I offered extra optional weekend practices that only 1 kid came to, but they were still super important. I actually got to know my players, and I adapted my coaching techniques to their needs. I bombarded the parents with emails until they had no choice but to learn our schedule. Hell, I even bought a whistle.
All right.
Sure to pay off. Practice after practice, I began to see improvements in their skills. Whereas many of them couldn't even bounce a ball at the first practice, now they could more or less dribble, sprint down the court, pass to each other, and even make a few baskets. Not only could they hold their own in a scrimmage, but they were actually having fun. So after a few weeks of slow but steady improvement, the day of our final game had arrived, and I was pumped. To my surprise, all 3 of my assistant coaches would be there, and I would have a full roster. So So this was the day that I had been dreaming of, and not just because it meant the end of the season and the return of my weeknights, but because it was a day just brimming with possibility. And I looked at this team and I said, these Bulldogs are not the motley crew that I had met at first practice. They're a real team. And we would need to have a real team because we were playing a really good team. We were playing the undefeated Hawks. They were the best in the league. But my Bulldogs knew their offense. They had their zone defense down. They were excited. They were hyper. They were making pretty much every single one of their shots in the warm-ups. So there was going to be an upset. It was going to be like a Disney movie where the ragtag underdogs rose above and beat the reigning champs. We were going to win, and I was sure of it. I was also dead wrong. So bad, destroyed. I mean, my team was the highest scoring game they had ever played with 16 points. But the Hawks also secured an over 20-point lead, thus successfully pummeling my Bulldogs. We ended the season with a perfect record of dismal losses. To my girls' credit, they have been amazing. I got to watch 10 confident and capable little athletes out there give that game their all. They tried their hardest and they actually loved to learn the sport, so I couldn't have been prouder. Though that season was a rough ride, and I would never, ever do it again, I can also say I wouldn't change a thing. Throughout those 4 months, I had one thought in my mind. This sucks and I want to quit. But I didn't because I had made a commitment to 10 horribly unathletic children. I had the opportunity to play basketball without me. So I realize now that if I had broken that commitment, I really would have missed out on one of the most challenging but also most rewarding experiences in my life. And I never would have learned countless valuable lessons that I did over those 4 months. So while it sucked, it reminded me, once you start, never, ever, ever give up. You owe it to yourself to stick through the rough times because you never know what you'll learn in the end.
Nicely done.